And you're live, Simon.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, financial freedom seekers. This is episode 97 of Bank to the Future Live. We were headed for 100 episodes, but we took a break in order to do a lot of work that we've been working on at Bank to the Future. We had to rebuild our onboarding system to make sure that we're up to date with all the latest regulations. We've been working and delaying with some really good deals that we're going to be putting live, starting from a first one this month, and then moving over to our next one in May. So we're really excited. And so we wanted to kick off Bank to the Future Live again, episode 97. For those of you new to the show, I give a lot of economic updates on my YouTube channel, Simon Dixon. But this is where we just focus primarily a bit more professional in the studio rather than in my gym, with those that are looking to invest in the future of finance. So at BnkToTheFuture.com, we have the largest community of those investing in the shares of financial technology, Bitcoin, crypto companies. We have had unicorn after unicorn. A unicorn is a company that's valued at over $1 billion or more. And we wanted to give some updates on those. So whether it be Coinbase, that was in the $30 billion, they were a private company on our platform at one stage and now a public company. Whether it be RobbinHood, $9 billion, whether it be Kraken, $20 billion valuation, whether it be blockchain.com that recently got valued at 14 billion, or Ripple Labs that just got valued at 2 billion, or Celsius that just got revalued at 3 billion, or the Bitso that got valued at over $2 billion. They all started out as small companies on our platform, and our investors were able to pull their money together in order to invest in these companies that are growing and growing and growing. Now, we've also had some failing companies along the way, which is why at Bank to the Future, we allow people to diversify. And even if they may have a lot of wealth, I want to share with you in this live broadcast, a BF Live episode 97, some of the biggest mistakes that we've seen. Having seen 150,000 investors over the last decade be involved in the highest performing sector and asset in history, and some of them go on to become billionaires, others of them go on to be in the same financial position as when they started, we've learned a thing or few. So what I'd like to do today is share with you, not financial advice, not investment advice, not tax advice, but some of the biggest mistakes that we've seen, and some of my invest in maxims. And then the second half, we're going to be taking your questions. So Azad, if someone's got a question that they would like to ask, we're avoiding some of the politics, mainly focus on investing. Then we got a Slidelow board. So Azad's here, he's going to pull the Slidelow board up now. And you can use that board. There's no account needed. You just simply ask your questions, or you can upvote other people's question. Azad, how do they get access to this board?
Yeah, so head over to Slidelow.com and you can enter the code that you see on the bottom left corner, BF97, or simply pick up your phone and scan the QR code on the top left.
Awesome. Okay, so that's where you can get your questions answered. In the second half, I'm going to get through as many questions as we can, and we're going to do more of an interactive AMA session. Okay, so I want to jump straight into the content, and I'm going to share my screen for this. And then I'm also want to make sure that you're aware of some of the tools that we have at Bank to the Future to implement some of these investing principles. So let's see how we get on. I'm just going to do a quick screen share, and you should see my slides now. Azad will let me know if not. BF Live episode 97, 27th of April, 2022, but these are pretty timeless. Yeah, okay, so let's go firstly through the mistakes that we've seen over those years. So I want to get back to basics, and I want to get into some of the more complex tools that you can use and that I use in building my exposure to this industry. And the reason that we created BnkToTheFuture.com in the first place was because I wanted to diversify very widely. I wanted to have a retirement plan that allowed me to get exposure to Bitcoin, receive returns on my Bitcoin, and also invest in all the exchanges and the companies in the industry. It didn't exist, so we had to create it. And it's constantly evolving into what it is today, where now we have have had over $1 billion invested in the industry through funding rounds listed on our platform. And I'll share some of those tools. But let's jump into some of the mistakes. Those of you familiar with my content on my personal YouTube channel, you'll know that I talk about this real amateur mistake that causes a lot of problems to people. And is that they combine their spending money with their investing money. The problem with this is that you are driven into what I call fiat thinking. And fiat thinking is where you value your wealth in fiat currency. The problem with valuing your wealth in fiat currency is designed to go down in value, inflate away at the moment at approximately 9% per annum or greater if you live in other countries, if you believe the statistics that politicians are telling you. So it's like a melting block. If you leave your money in a bank, firstly, they become the legal owner, they get to spend it and they may block it, and also it decreases in value by design. So when you combine your spending money, where if your rent is chargeable or your mortgage is payable in a fiat currency, and you combine it with your investment account, you end up often buying, selling low and buying high. The reason for that is when the market crashes, you think of your wealth in terms of fiat currency. So you see your wealth going down. Then you have to cover your mortgage or cover your rent or meet your expenses. So you end up selling in order to meet it because you're concerned about the short-term expenses. Now, and then you end up buying on other emotions as well. The way to combat this is to do what I call fiat thinking versus Bitcoin thinking. Bitcoin thinking means you value your wealth in Bitcoin. So in the current markets, when Bitcoin is crashing, you accumulate more Bitcoin with your fiat because you see your fiat currency, the money you earn, as a mechanism for buying Bitcoin. And if the price goes down, you're happy because you get to buy more Bitcoin and you end up with more Bitcoin. If you are fiat thinking, then you do the opposite. And it's normally because people are not separating their investment money from their spending money. And so that's really the antidote. So one of the things that we encourage people to do is, one of the things we work through when we're working with our clients, for example, at Retirement Plan B, let me share some of the other screens that we got here, is to separate, let me have a look. So hopefully you can see my screen here. Is to have your bank account where you only put enough money in there for meeting your expenses and your security. And when we work with our clients at Retirement Plan B, we do calculations, do their balance sheets, do their cash flow statements, figure out how much they need to put aside and how much they can invest. And then they separate their investment account. So when you create an account on BnkToTheFuture.com, you can actually deposit a set amount, for example. I'll just go here to one of the accounts we set up for this demo. So here you can see the account. And if you head over to the fund section of your account, think of this as your investment account. Here you can deposit, you can go here and you can deposit some Canadian dollars, some pounds, some US dollars, some yen, any currency that's supported by SWIFT. Now I know that SWIFT is sanctioning and we can't support currencies that are being sanctioned at the moment. And so you have to be aware of those, but any currency supported by SWIFT, you can deposit and it will automatically be converted into what we call USD star. Now this USD star, you can think of as a stable coin. You can deposit there and you can convert it to anything. So let's say if you've got your investment account, you can buy it, you can sell it, you can deposit it, you can trade it, and you can just simply buy some Bitcoin in the fund section of your account. Now, this feature is open to everybody that has a verified account on BnkToTheFuture.com. So if you haven't logged in for a while, make sure you verify your account. When you log in, it will tell you what to do. but you can do that in the identity section on your account. So you head over to the identity and it will tell you whether you are verified or certified, and you can then verify your account. Certification is the process of getting a bit more complex. So we'll go through in that, which is where you can invest in more different types. And it's only open to certain investors, but I'll give you a few more updates on that as well. So really, that's the first mistake, is not separating your spending money from your investment money. And therefore, you start to see the two, as the Bitcoin price crashes, you start to see it as your wealth going down rather than seeing it as your Bitcoin wealth going up. And that was really one of the key differences in those that have done well. So that's the first one. The second one is looking for something cheaper than Bitcoin. Now, if you're new to investing in this industry, most people say Bitcoin's too expensive, and therefore they start looking at alternatives. Well, as you'll see in my investment maxims that we'll go through soon, there's only one, digital hard sell money in our industry, and it's Bitcoin. Everything else, think of it like an investment that might get you more Bitcoin or lose your Bitcoin faster. And so you end up with all sorts of stuff, and this is where you end up in the shitcoin industry. You end up looking for cheaper alternatives when you didn't realize that you could just buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy $10, $100 a Bitcoin. At Banktothefuture, you can deposit, some funds to your account, and then you can buy fractions of Bitcoins rather than thinking you have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And if you can't afford to buy a whole Bitcoin, you look for cheaper alternatives. And the cheaper is cheap for a reason, because they're not digital hard sell money. So that's really the second one, is looking for something cheaper than Bitcoin and ending up with no Bitcoin in the end. Then you end up, speculating on all sorts of stuff and in some really bad habits. And these bad habits are essentially gambling in the crypto sector. This is when you start going to leverage exchanges and trying to make money and buy and sell and trade, create taxable events, have no plan around it. You start looking for tips. You start looking for gurus that are going to tell you what you should be buying. You have fear of missing out because FOMO, because everyone's telling you. You're looking at YouTube influencers and they're telling you, 5 coins in 5 days that make you all this money. And you end up on the merry-go-round of distraction and no Bitcoin, losing your money, over leveraging, creating taxable issues for yourself, and getting on the wrong side of a crash or the right side of the crash. And then leaving away saying I got scammed, because you end up inevitably in some type of scam trying to guess these markets. So the first job in investing in the industry is just getting simply back to basics, which I set a goal for myself over a decade ago, which is that every single month I want to have more Bitcoin than I had in the previous month. And that was by valuing my wealth in Bitcoin, separating whatever's happening with price so that I'm not making some of these amateur mistakes. The people that I have seen that have done that end up with enough Bitcoin to start diversifying into other things, and then they separate their investment account and they end up being able to become a high net worth investor, for example, and then they can purchase and get access to all of the big deals in our sector, in our industry, like many of the investors at Banktothefuture have. So our first job at Banktothefuture was to get as many people Bitcoin, value their wealth in Bitcoin, and rather than being at the whims of the markets, just increasing the amount of Bitcoin that they have every month and then being able to diversify it. Okay. So those are the 3 amateur mistakes that we're trying to avoid. Now, I'm just going to go quickly into the investing maxims. Now, the reason I created these, I'm currently writing a new book at the moment, and I wanted to just have some investment maxims because there's going to be so many distractions as we enter into financial crisis, wars, change of currencies, currency wars, inflation, deflation, all sorts of stuff that we're going to be experiencing as I created a video series called The Great Depression of the 2020s to try and warn as many people. And so I wanted to create these maxims to give you some principles that I use in deciding each month how to allocate my funds. The first one is that there are two types of money machines. And those money machines are the traditional fiat money machine and the decentralized money machine. The first fiat money machine is essentially the world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme, which is fiat currency. It's how most people value their wealth. They value their wealth in pounds, in dollars, in yen, in Filipino currencies, in pesos, in rupees, in rubles. And these currencies are designed to go down in value, and they tend to, traditional investors expose themselves to it. Well, Bitcoin created this second money machine, which is the decentralized money machine. And a lot of people, they expose themselves fully to it. My maxine is that I need to have exposure to both money machines, and being exposed to one is too much exposure as you go over time. The second maxim is cash is not king. So this is what I'm talking about. Most people in times of uncertainty, they take their assets and they convert them to cash. That means they have to put it at a bank. When they put it at a bank, the bank becomes a legal owner of their money. They lose money in inflation. It melts away, and they wonder why they have to work harder and harder and harder to maintain their savings. This is because cash is trash for your savings, but it's king for managing your expenses. So when people try to manage their expenses in Bitcoin, they end up in trouble, selling at the wrong time because of the things that I talked about. Your expenses should be measured in fiat. They shouldn't take currency risk. And cash is king with your security and savings, but you have to hold it at a bank. The savings cash is absolute trash because it melts away, and most people try and save in fiat and then wonder why they have to work harder and harder. It's because of the second maxim. The third maxim is everyone's going to be telling you about what's the next world reserve currency, is the dollar melting away with all these trillions. What else is happening? Well, in order to get around that, you have to speculate. So if you keep your money in cash, then it melts away. Speculation is survival today. Now, you are all speculating, but some of you may not know it. Some of you, if you put money at a bank, you're speculating on the credit risk of that bank, and that they're not doing shenanigans with your money in the background, and using that money in order to trade risks with that money. And you're speculating on the federal insurance, which also doesn't have enough money to cover those deposits. It's why during the last crisis, we had lots of bailouts, because everyone would have lost their savings because the deposit insurance doesn't cover more than one bank failure. So that means you have to drive into speculation. If you leave your money at a bank, then you're speculating on the bank. If you put it into a retirement plan or pension, then you're speculating on the retirement plan structure, or you decide to take control and you decide where you're speculating. So you have to speculate, and everybody is speculating. Maxim number 4 is that we are in a US dollar standard. Over 50% of foreign exchange transactions happen in dollars. And by far the largest currency that is reserves to central banks is in dollars. However, we are at the end of a debt cycle. There are illogical investments, investing in the bond market. You lose money in real terms by investing in bonds right now. You got inflation at about 8 to 9% at the best case. And some of those bonds are only paying you about 1%. So people are willing to lose about 6% in order to not store their money at a bank and instead lend it to the government. So that marks the end of a cycle. However, the US dollar does have lots of tools that it can do. It can use central bank digital currencies in order to roll over the Ponzi scheme a little bit further. So my maxim is as following. We are in a US dollar standard until we are not, and we will know when we're not because it will become obvious. But many people have gone broke trying to predict when we're no longer in the US dollar standard, and they've been sat there for decades when new tools come out that they can roll over the Ponzi scheme. And so therefore, I don't try and guess on that. I accept that we are in a US dollar standard until we are not. You're betting against the Federal Reserve if you're going against that mantra. The fifth maxim is that there is only one store of value, and that store of value is gold. Gold is 5,000 years store of value. It's maintained its value, but it doesn't make people wealthy. A store of value is not designed to increase your wealth. It's designed to preserve your wealth. So rather than holding funds in fiat currencies, the wealthy hold their funds in gold because it preserves their wealth. Think of it like a bank account for the wealthy rather than fiat currency, which is a bank account for the poor, because it makes you poorer. Whereas gold preserves your wealth, and therefore the gold has become the only store of value to preserve your wealth over time. And when a global world reserve currency changes, every single fiat currency has failed, or has become incredibly, devalued over 90%. So therefore, when that does happen, it's gold that tends to stick in there as the only store of value that stood the test of time. However, there is one speculative alternative to gold, and that is Bitcoin. There is nothing else in the crypto market that competes for Bitcoin to be digital hard sound money. There are lots of alternatives out there that are we call the crypto market, but there's only one that's digital hard sound money. And what does it do that gold can't do? Well, it allows you to transport it globally, which is a big improvement because fiat currency was created to solve the problem that gold is very hard to transport. So people stank and they ended up with a receipt for gold that's called fiat currency. And then it was a promise to convert to gold. That promise was taken away and we ended up in the Ponzi scheme we call fiat currency today. Therefore, but it is easy to transport digitally. And so fiat currency had a use case. Whereas Bitcoin now solves that because it has a fixed supply, it is easy to transport, and importantly, it's a lot easier to store. Gold is very hard to store. You end up leaving it with a third party in custody because it's hard to store for yourself. The problem is that Bitcoin's only been around for 13 years compared to gold's 5,000 years. And because many people think it's a Ponzi scheme, a currency just for drug dealers, a get-rich-quick scheme, a way of making more fiat, then the demand for Bitcoin is more speculative, and therefore the price is more volatile. And so over time, that eventually, from my perspective, becomes a store of value, in which case it becomes like gold. Where it preserves your wealth over the long term, but it's speculative. Returns are generated there because of that. And so the final maxim is that crypto is not sound money. And so when people are investing in the crypto markets, the way that I see this, if you put these maxims together, is that you have to diversify the traditional markets with the crypto markets. If you don't, maxim one, you're exposed to one outcome. You're betting on central banks or you're betting fully on Bitcoin. The money that you hold at your savings should not be holding cash because cash is trash. And the money held in your bank account is cash is king, which is designed to separate your investment account from your expenses account. Speculation is required, otherwise it gets inflated away and it disappears into a melting ice block we call fiat currency. The full game at the moment, we are in a US dollar standard, and therefore anything priced against dollar is more speculative. But one day the dollar will not be in a US dollar standard. At that stage, we look at stores of value when currency wars change, and that's where gold comes in. And then there is a speculative store of value. Think of gold as a bank account for the wealthy to preserve their wealth. And then they have to invest it. And there is a speculative store of value called Bitcoin, where historically over the last 13 years, returns have been generated. And those that want to speculate further Don't confuse the crypto market with digital hard sale money. It's just simply a way of generating more Bitcoin if you're thinking in terms of my maxims. And you can also diversify into the equity of companies as well. And so I just want to go through a few more before we start taking your questions. I'm just going to do a few more screen shares, and then we're going to give some more updates on what's been happening and the tools that are at Bank to the Future. Okay, so let's go over to the screen share. Tools that have been working on at Bank to the Future. So firstly, we've got some big updates. We had to update all of and re-onboard all of our 150,000, over 150,000 investors. The way that we're at right now is that anybody that verifies their account can use it as their investment account. They can buy some Bitcoin each month. They can deposit. They convert to a stable coin. They can convert that to ETH or whatever they want to do from within their account. That can all be done in the fund section of their account. Now, at the moment, we've been applying for several licenses. We've got 3 pending applications. At the moment, our regulator made us certify all of our investors as what's known as high net worth. So if you have $1 million of assets, then we need to get proof that you have $1 million of assets before you can continue to invest on our 2 different markets. So just as a recap, some of the different markets that we have, if you head over to here, you got what we call our primary market. So here is my retirement plan. This is a retirement plan that I invest into every month. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but I use my retirement plan on Bank to the Future. That allows me, every time I deposit funds each month, it automatically buys me some Bitcoin. It lends out some Bitcoin, so I receive some returns on it. And it gives me a portfolio that I can use on Bank to the Future to invest in companies and deals on Bank to the Future. We got 2 deals coming up. We got a bank. We got a FV Bank that is a crypto-friendly bank. They're doing their next round. And we've also got Celsius, which is one of the largest crypto lending platforms that's going to be going live on our platform shortly. Here's their last funding round. And investors in a period of about 1.5 years, the valuation went from, I think it was approximately 120 million to over 3 billion. And so that's one of the fastest growing companies on Bank to the Future. They're coming back. We've got an allocation. This round, it will only be open to high net worth investors. So if you want to get in either of those deals, you're going to have to certify your account. How do you do that? You head over to your account. You go over to the identity section. And if you verified your account, then you can buy virtual assets. You can buy some Bitcoin. But if you certify your account, then you can invest in securities. You can invest in deals on Bank to the Future. Currently, there's no deals on the primary market, but the next 2 will be going live. So make sure you update your account. You just have to prove that you've got $1 million of assets. You can do that in a few ways. It can be crypto assets. You can prove you own them. It explains how to do that. It could be traditional asset statements, and it can even be the assets. We have lots of investors whose portfolios are worth more than $1 million just through their investments on Bank to the Future. Now, we're applying for a few licenses. Once those licenses are secured, so make sure you certify your account even if you're not high net worth as a non-high net worth investor. The reason for that is because any deals that you've missed, we're going to be looking to put the deals that are succeeding live on our secondary market. And this is where people apply for finance if you're a company. But on the secondary market, this is where investors, so we got investors that invested in BitFinex in the past. So, BitFinex is one of the largest crypto exchanges. Kraken is one of the largest crypto exchanges and banks. They got a banking license. Circle has the second largest stablecoin. Blockchain.com is the largest and most popular wallet in the Bitcoin market. Ripple Labs is a company that it's got one of the largest alternative cryptocurrencies and is building banking infrastructure. RTM is a play on, they do a lot of business in Latin America for those that want US dollar bank accounts in the crypto market. BitPay, one of the first payment service, allow people to take Bitcoin payments and receive them in dollars, and various other things. So we got some of our previous deals, but investors are able to put them on here and say, I'd like to place a sell order, and any other qualifying investor can come along and purchase those. Now, we're going to be putting more and more deals once we've been through a restructuring project. To give you a little bit of an insight, at BnkToTheFuture, we've had to rebuild the back end of all of our securities. The reason for that is because some of them have, for example, they started off as a loan and then it got converted into shares. And then those shares got converted into different share classes. And some of them were swapped for security tokens as they grew. And we've got all these different types of shares. And in order to cater for that, we had to rebuild the entire back end of the system because we were the first innovators in the industry. And that's a project that we're working on this year. And once that project is complete, it means that we can have multiple different types of shares for one company. You can update and you can see we can have one company where you have different types of shares and then they can be on our secondary market. That took a ginormous amount of restructuring of our platform. And later this year, we should be completed and then we'll have many more deals on the market. So if you're missing any of these deals, then we can put them on the secondary market in the future. Also, once we secure additional licenses, as we said, those additional licenses are allowing us to do more things with virtual assets, offer more retirement plans to those that want to contribute every single month, and also allow non-high net worth investors if we secure the license in the future. So this is why it's really important to verify and certify your account so that when those licenses come through, those that are already verified and certified, we can notify you of the deals before they go live, and make sure that you're up to date with those. And so these are the ways of diversifying and investing in the industry. I hold a portfolio in all the exchanges. Why? Because I don't want to mess around with all of these different trends in crypto, NFTs, ICOs, metaverses, gaming tokens. Instead, all the exchanges, they have to be up and date on all this stuff. They make money of all that stuff. If you look at the crypto market, every year it's all completely different. But when I own equity in these exchanges, I get to benefit from all the trends, and they make the most money in upward markets, downward markets, and all the different trends that happen and come along and all the different innovation. Now it's long-term, high-risk, high-return investing. Those returns that I talked about in the video at the beginning, it's all been generated by those that have a longer-term perspective. And that's why it's important to have these separate your spending money from your investing money, because the key to this is simple back-to-basics rules. And those back-to-basics rules are separating your spending money, ending up with more Bitcoin each month, and then being able to diversify a bit more like the wealthy into different deals. And in order to make that happen, I'll just go through a couple of other tools at BnkToTheFuture that we've been working on. We've now got 27 retirement plans in beta from those that completed our online wealth management program. So before we go into the AMA section, I just want to show you a few more tools that we built for you in order to gain exposure to the growth of the market. If you go here, you can see here that we've got our retirement plan B. Now, if you click on this, you can see here, this is our portfolio builder service. You can pre-register here. We're currently working with 27 of our investors. What we've built a retirement plan whereby they can contribute every month, and it automatically buys them their crypto, or it buys them their Ethereum in line with their investment strategy. It lends some of it out. It opens and it gives them a asset protection structure so that they can invest via a retirement plan And then they can use that to invest in companies on Bank to the Future and implement many of those rules that we talk about. So for those of you, each year we do something called, oh, my screen's gone, the Online Wealth Management Program. I think the screen's gone. Are you seeing a screen right now, Azad, or is it me?
Nope.
Okay, it's me. Okay, so you can click and you'll see two links there. One is the Online Wealth Management Program. We've put about 750 people through the program right now, and some stage later this year, we'll do our next program. But you can register there. You can get a load of free videos. You can see a 4 3-part video series I created. You can even get a PDF of my book that I wrote. That was the first published book in the world to include Bitcoin. And there was a masterclass that we did. We'll do another one. We try to update it each year. But you can get started to understand that. There we go. And you can register here. Once you've been through the free program that helps you understand this, we'll also give you access to a membership portal and all sorts of tools that we want to give to people so that they can implement this in a more professional way. And then from those that have completed that program, you can also pre-register for what we call the Portfolio Builder service. So you can register here. That's the Online Wealth Management Program. And the Portfolio Builder service is essentially the retirement plan that I use, that I contribute to every month to ensure that I have more Bitcoin each month. I separate my investment account from the spending account. That's just a few tools that we'd love to share with you. But our goal really is to come on a journey. So we'd like you as investors to join a journey. You can buy some Bitcoin with us. You can buy some Ethereum with us. You can dip your toe in the water. You can verify your account. As we secure more licenses, then we'll be able to open up our equity to those that have less than $1 million of assets already. But those that do, make sure you certify your account so that you get access to some of the upcoming deals that we've got going on. And that is how are we doing for time. I went 8 minutes over my allocated slot. Let's use the next 20 minutes to cover as many questions. And the goal is that when new deals are going live on Bank to the Future, we'll try and make sure that we're doing some more weekly updates, again, just focused on the investing side. Now, many of you know me for questions that you might have around the political side. I'm going to focus on the investing side, so we'll see what the most upvoted questions are. Quickly, you can scan the QR code and you can ask your questions or upvote other people's questions, or you can head over to sli.do, enter this code that you see on the screen, and it will take you over to here. Wow, we got a lot of questions. So Azad, in the next 20 minutes, let's take as many questions as we can. What's the first one you got for me?
Okay, what is the status of the Celsius funding opportunity?
So team, and we had an interesting scenario where we, one of our escrow account providers for the US, we are doing an integration with FV Bank, getting through the due diligence. And so make sure you verify and certify your account, and we'll notify you. Now, for those of you that are our priority access deal members, we'll be giving you 48 hours head start. But the next deal that we're looking to go live should be Celsius. Once all the DD is finished, we're just waiting for a few more documents from them. They've been busy scaling, they've been busy growing, but as soon as we got those, that will be the next deal to go live. So we think that there's a couple more weeks there, unless there's some additional roadblocks that come up.
Okay, next question is from Jackson. For a worker making the minimum wage, what do you think are the best places to invest your money and why?
I can't give you investment advice, so I can't tell you specifically because that requires me having I am a qualified financial advisor, but I'm no longer registered to give financial advice. I did my exams back in the day, but you need to actually be registered with the regulator in order to do that. But the rules for me are the same. Head over to the 4-part video series. go to retirementplanb.com/book, go through that 4-part video series where I shared exactly how I invest and what I do in the current industry. Now, whether you're on minimum wage or not, it is about spending less than you earn, separating your spending money from your investment money, and then initially, building a Bitcoin position, and then looking to diversify as your wealth grows and as things grow. We can't give you investment advice there of what specifically to invest in, but I can share with you exactly what I'm investing in. So check out that free video series, and that should help you understand how I do things, because I also shared how I do it if I have no savings and just a regular income.
Okay, next question is from Jim. Hi, Simon. Will the Volcano Bonds only be available to high net worth investors on the Bank to the Future platform? If so, can people buy them elsewhere? Thanks, Simon. Keep up the great work.
Yes, so one of the licenses that we are applying for is a license in El Salvador. We went over there, we met the government, we met the president. There's a very exciting vision, but there was a little bit of political uncertainty in El Salvador that the president and the government are dealing with at the moment. So the project was delayed, but the goal is for us to, once El Salvador is ready and they've implemented their new securities laws, we have been given priority access to be one of the first to get a license there. So the goal around that is that if that all goes through, then that would be one of our first ways of offering investment opportunities via our El Salvador entity. If that all comes through and the securities laws get updated, we're just waiting for the government to make those updates. So make sure you certify and verify your account in advance on Bank to the Future. And then those that are already verified and certified will give you details on how you can sign up with either our El Salvador entity or another entity that's able to work with non-high net worth investors. I'm really excited about that when that comes through.
Okay, next question is from Jackson. Hi, Simon. I hope you're well. I wondered what your thoughts are on investing in NFTs.
So non-fungible tokens as an investment is very, very scary. A long time ago in 2017, I told everybody that investing in the equivalent of NFTs was ICOs. It was called an initial coin offering. And I said, if these are being used as investments, then they're circumventing securities laws. And therefore, when securities laws are being implemented, you'll end up with a big crash and correction. That happened. Non-fungible tokens sit in another gray area. The challenge with non-fungible tokens is that if people start using them as investment products, then people will start delisting off stock exchanges and claiming that their companies are NFTs instead. And then it becomes a way of circumventing securities laws. It disrupts the financial markets. So regulators will come in at some stage and start regulating the market if people are using them as investments. Investments are regulated and they are designed for that. So when thinking about non-fungible tokens, I personally would consider that I invest in the shares of exchanges. Exchanges create lots of things on the more fads and the more trends. And then eventually it becomes either a security just for high net worth investors. And then when we get securities license outside high net worth investors, we can offer those opportunities. But really, it should be a very speculative part and following in line with some of the maxims. So I would see that as a very speculative on the edge part once you built a certain amount of net worth. And you're in that position to be able to do that. That's how I think about non-fungible tokens.
Okay, question from Austin. Do you see opportunities in investing in Bitcoin mining companies? It's like an asymmetric risk on top of an asymmetric risk, where if Bitcoin succeed, Bitcoin miners will explode also. Yeah,
so for my Bitcoin portfolio, the vast majority of it is Bitcoin. And then I have a retirement plan that takes some of that Bitcoin, lends it so that I receive a compounded income. My goal is to, well, I've achieved the goal, but my goal when I was trying to climb the wealth ladder was where the income on your investments supersedes any of your expenses, at which stage that's the definition of financial freedom. Once you achieve that, and then the other portion of it is in equity and crypto assets. That's where I would invest in mining companies. I am a shareholder in some mining companies, but it's all about getting the asset allocations right. So when we built our retirement plans and our portfolio builder service, there's really like 4 cornerstones to it. It's an asset protection structure. It's well-defined diversification. It's a structure that is tax deferred and also, with inheritance in mind. And so when you contribute each month, you just automate the whole process. So you're not guessing, how much do I invest here? Do I invest in NFTs? It's just well structured. It follows based upon the foundations of a financial plan that you would have put together for yourself on the online wealth management program. And that's how I think about these things. Most people think about these investments as, should I put it here? No, the maxims are designed for you to think more like a professional fund manager, asset allocation, and those are the keys in thinking about that. So yeah, I will invest in mining companies, but it's all about what bucket does it fit in and how does it get in with your overall plan.
Do you have any idea when you will release your new book?
Oh, well, so I've got through the vast majority. I think I've written 3/4 of it. I then need to stick it out to the editors, and we've got a very exciting publisher. We can't announce that yet until all the contracts are signed. And then we'll make sure that you're the first to know. If you are not on retirementplanb.com/book, the members there, I'll make sure that you get notified first. A lot more work to do, but I'm getting that out as fast as I can possibly get that out.
Is Bank to the Future still involved in the Volcano Bond? If so, when will it launch, and how will Bank to the Future approach selling this?
As soon as El Salvador releases their law, and we have been put in a queue to receive a license. If that all happens, then we can give you further updates. That was meant to have happened by now, but we're still waiting for El Salvador to release their laws and get over some of the political situations that are prioritizing their attention right now with all this inflation and some of the crime issues that they're dealing with.
Uphold has achieved a new valuation, according to Bank to the Future support post on the Investor Zone on Feb 2022. However, the new value and share price was not disclosed to investors. Please post this to the Investor Zone. Thanks.
Okay, cool. We'll make sure that the support team, if there's something to be updated, we've gone through a massive audit. I mean, it was a huge amount of work where we had to come up with new valuation methodologies for all of the different companies that have multiple asset classes. So some people may have invested in one round. It may have been a loan that converts to equity, and then someone invested in the next round. New share classes were issued. And some of them, for example, shapeshift, canceled the shares, issued dividends, and various other things. So that's the securities restructuring project. If you have more patience with us, and I know you have been very patiently waiting, we have done the audit. We've got a few more projects that we need to do for updating payment methods. Then we're starting to code the securities restructuring. We doubled the size. We've got 4 new members joining the tech team over the next couple of weeks. We doubled the size of the support team, the investor relations team, the client relations team, the marketing team. So we've been doing a lot of investing in our recruitment so that we can make sure that everything's ready for the growth phase. We used the bear market to make sure that we're strengthening that. And then I reckon as soon as the securities restructuring later towards the end of this year, all of the portfolios can then be updated, start to look beautiful, then we can put some more secondary markets. That was meant to be done a long time ago, but all of the regulatory changes took precedent. By the end of this year, we think we're going to be coming back a lot stronger and great tools for you to be able to just see the value a lot easier, given all those restructuring we need to do. So thank you for that feedback.
We've just got 9 minutes remaining. Right, question. Will it be possible for non-high net worth investors who already invested in deals to sell their shares on the secondary market, or do we have to wait until you get more licenses?
Yeah, so if you are a high net worth investor, certify your account and you are able to sell shares on the secondary market if that particular company is supported. If you are not a high net worth investor, then you have to wait for our additional license. Once we got that additional license, then we'll be able to open up our secondary market to qualifying investors, and you'd have to wait there. So we can't complete a transaction like that with a non-high net worth investor at this stage.
Okay, seems like we're getting a lot more questions around Celsius, but got a question from Moera. Hi, Simon. For sure, you will give an update on second ET round of Celsius. I bought ET in the first round. I'm a tier three customer of Banktothefuture presently. Can I sell ET on the secondary market later as a tier 3 customer?
It requires us getting an additional license. So tier 4 is high net worth, tier 3 is self-certified. You have to be certified to sell on our secondary market once we put Celsius live on the secondary market. So the answer is no, there isn't a secondary market for Celsius shares yet. We're waiting for the additional license, and then tier 3 investors that qualify and certify their account will be able to sell pending liquidity and pending the market going live. So you have to be a bit more patient on that. Thank you for your patience, but we're working a way to make that possible.
Okay, what value is FE Bank raising funds at?
We'll release the details at that, but the original funding round, again, I'm sharing public information. The original funding round, I think, had it was about $40 million, their valuation at the time, an equity raise. The next round, don't hold me to this, but I believe it's a convertible note, which means that it's a loan that converts to equity. And that has what's known as a valuation cap, which I believe is going to be a 10x on the last valuation. So I think we're looking at a cap of a discount on a 400 million valuation. Sorry if that's complicated. Convertible notes, we could do a whole session on to help people understand that a bit deeper. But that's it's looking like that type of valuation. And then their goal is to do a price round at a higher valuation later as well. So that's what I can tell you for now.
Does Banktothefuture provide inheritance beneficiary forms for deals we have participated in?
Inheritance beneficial forms. Maybe you could write to the support and share us an example of what that is. We have the ability for you to download all of your transactions. We're rebuilding the portfolio section. I think once we rebuild the portfolio, that would be helpful. But what I probably think you're referring to is assigning who the assets would go to. Our process for inheritance at the moment is you'd need to have it in your will, and then the estate would contact us just like they do everyone else. And then we have a process for being able to transfer that to the estate. If you want that process to be a lot easier for inheritance planning, then you might want to consider the Retirement Plan B portfolio builder service in the future when that's available, because that becomes a lot easier. But yeah, I hope that answers your questions. But if you've got suggestions, for other processes, please do reach out to our support and we'll get those looked at.
Okay, question from Matt G. Please rant about the effect a Bitcoin standard could have on floating currency exchange rates and national currency valuations. Thanks.
I'm going to leave that one. It's a bit too political, non-investment. Why? As I say, we'll focus on investing in this one. Great question, but I'll look to cover that maybe in a SD broadcast on my YouTube channel.
Sorry, question from William B. If Celsius has been valued at $3 billion, why does it show on CoinMarketCap.com a market cap of $504 million? Who updates that?
Awesome. So you are confusing the Celsius Cell token with shares in the company. CoinMarketCap lists the Cell token. It's a token that you can use on the Celsius platform. That should not be confused with shares in the company. Shares in the company were sold on Banktothefuture, and Banktothefuture is the only way that you can actually buy shares in the company, which is owning a piece of the company. A token is issued by the company. The biggest owner of the tokens is the company itself. And so shares should definitely not be confused with tokens. So on CoinMarketCap, that's the tokens. And on our secondary market, when Celsius goes live, that will be Celsius shares via our special structure that makes that possible. I tell you what, Zod, I think we should, because it's the first BF Live back, why don't we do an extra, should we do an extra 15 minutes of questions and go over?
Sure thing, let's do it. Okay, I'm 24 years old, been on the Bitcoin and crypto journey for 3 years now, investing as much as possibly I can. Just finished the book, Bank to the Future. Would you recommend someone of my age to buy a house or rent instead? Currently living in the UK.
Yeah, so that is a financial planning question. The only way to answer that, and I don't want to fob you off, is to actually develop a plan for yourself. So one of the things we do on the wealth management program is we work with the clients to put together a cash flow, an income statement and a balance sheet. Once you have an income statement and a balance sheet, you then put together a path for climbing the wealth ladder and what goals and milestones you need to hit along the way. Investors put together their own plan, and then it determines how much you want to invest, how much you want to diversify, and work backwards. Without knowing all that information, it's not possible for me to say, should you rent, should you buy? It really depends. So what I do in my financial plan is I set dream goals, and I have a bucket in my retirement plan, which is not compounding. Compounding is where you earn interest on interest, you earn growth on growth. You have a section which is just where you pull out money once you hit a dream goal. And so if you want to buy your house outright, for example, then you would set a dream goal, and then you would have an allocation towards that. So it's all about asset allocation, planning, and in your search for a simple answer, unfortunately, I can't answer that because you need to do a bit of planning. So that's the type of thing that our online wealth management program was designed to solve. So we stay tuned, and we can let you know if you haven't been through that when you can join it, and that it should help you develop a plan and just really get more professional in your approach with asset allocation and planning those things.
I'm investing as much as I can into Bitcoin rather than saving money in the bank and buying a property.
Okay, I don't think it's a question, but I think that's their investment approach.
Yeah. Okay, question from Dr. Amit. Hi, Simon. This BIP 119 agenda is scaring us. Why do you developers want to make change in the base layer? What can be done to stop this?
So the way of getting code changed on Bitcoin is a very democratic process. And so if it's not popular, a BIP, for those of you not familiar, is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, and anyone can submit a Bitcoin improvement proposal, but then it still needs to get activated. And there's a very strict mechanism for being activated, which is controlled by miners, nodes, and when things get very controversial, sometimes users as well through a user-activated soft fork. So look back in history, a great book to understand how to combat changes and understand the change process, which I really enjoyed, was something called, I think, Blockchain Wars. Sorry if I butchered it. But it goes through the block war, the block size wars and debates that we've been through in the past. That will give you a real good insight into how to be more actively involved in the process of getting changes in Bitcoin. It's very difficult to get changes through. So just because an improvement proposal is proposed, there's still a big way to go to get a change in Bitcoin.
Question from JR. What does Bank to the Future do with all the fiat you receive?
I will answer that. Sorry, I think it's Block Size Wars, blockchain. Who in the chat, someone in the live chat, let me know the name of the book. The one that was written. It's a great book on block size wars. Sorry, what was the question again? I'm going to look it up.
Question was, what does Bank to the Future do with all the fiat you receive?
So we hold it in custody with our partner, First Digital Trust. Full disclosure, First Digital Trust is a client of ours. They did a funding round on Bank to the Future, but we hold fiat currency in trust in order to segregate it. Now, trust structures are a legal layer on top of leaving money at a bank. When you deposit money with a bank, the bank becomes the legal owner of your money. When you have it through a trust and custody structure, then there's a fiduciary duty to legally segregate those funds and hold them in the name of that. So we hold all of our funds in custody with First Digital Trust via a trust structure. And then if you do it through a retirement plan, like our portfolio builder service, that is actually held in the name of your asset protection structure and segregated further. But to answer that question, we hold them in custody with First Digital Trust. And we also use FV Bank as well, one of our other portfolio companies, as a banking partner that we're currently onboarding with in order to get that done for the Celsius deal at the moment.
Okay, question from Kerry. With all the KYC,
so I'm trying to get the name of the book. Go for it.
Yeah, with all the KYC amendments, my concern is that if I set up RPB with Bank to the Future and then KYC goal post change, I could be blocked out of this investment.
That's a good question. So I think all of the uncertainties are pretty much known, with the exception of things like sanctions. So it's not necessarily a risk with Bank to the Future, it's a risk with any financial institution. So any financial institution that has to comply with the laws, we always have to comply with the laws. So what can I say about that? So firstly, if you are a certified high net worth investor, then the likelihood of securities laws changing there that blocks you out of that, is regulators. It's the same as anything. We would also, we're applying for our additional licenses so that we can have a backup plan and in multiple jurisdictions as well, so that we're able to onboard people in these different entities. And really the last year that we've spent our time on is about making sure that we can safeguard from many of the regulatory updates in a constantly changing environment. So the verification, we've pretty much covered what we know is coming in the future. We try to future-proof that a lot. The certification stage, we are applying for those additional licenses to lower the bar, and we know the bar for the current one. So that's all I can say about that. Whether governments change laws, that would affect your bank account, that will affect your investment account, that will affect your traditional retirement plan. And that's the same with us.
Question from Gabrielle. I have a commercial building, fully cash owned, and the bank would loan me 70% of the value for 7.2% yearly fee. Does it make sense to take out the loan take the loan out to buy Bitcoin?
So I couldn't take an isolated incident. I don't know your financial position. I don't know your financial goals. What I would say is that it's all about putting together an income statement, a balance sheet for you, working through a financial plan, going through something like the retirement plan beyond like wealth management program, and you will know exactly how to answer that question for yourself before you overexpose yourself to that. So, it's just not possible for me to have that limited information, and I can't give you financial advice. All I can do is give you the tools for you to be able to know how to answer those questions for yourself.
I really like to know when we individuals are being able to invest in your bank and how we have to do that. Any ordinary bank can open an account, but how and when and if, for me, is still a mystery, or is it only for the happy few?
Yes, so this is very important. We are not a bank, so you don't use us in order to open a bank account. BnkToTheFuture is an online investment platform. So if you want to purchase Bitcoin or ETH, or turn your funds into stable coins so that you can purchase Bitcoin or ETH and make investments, then you can use our platform to do that. If you want to buy shares in the growth of the industry and access investment opportunities, then at the moment you have to be a certified high net worth investor, which means that you prove you have $1 million in net worth. And when we have additional licenses in the future that we're applying for, if we get those, we'll make it available to those and make it more accessible. So in terms of an alternative to your bank account, that's not what we do. We invest in banks, we allow people to buy shares in banks, but we are not a bank account in ourselves.
Okay, question from Moera. First, big thanks for all your free content. I follow it all 6 years. This is also a reason I'm motivated to work for Banktothefuture and leaving my EU captain airline job. Do you have job opportunities coming up? And if so, what kind?
Yeah, Zard, could you pull up the careers page? So we've got a lot of jobs that we're looking to hire for at the moment. We're bringing on an average of 2 to 3 people every week at the moment. And if you go to BnkToTheFuture.com, just hit the under, I think it's About Us, on the careers, there's a careers page, and you can pick a job that's right for you. We've got more going up on the legal side, the finance side. We've got developer jobs. We've got investor relations jobs. We've got client relations jobs. Yeah, you can see some of those listed there.
Okay, question from Vincent. Hi, Simon. Do you have a price prediction for Bitcoin in 2030, 2040, and 2050?
I don't know. So I don't actually try and set price targets because I'm not a fiat thinker. My goal is to accumulate more Bitcoin each month than I did the previous month. I believe that the demand for digital hard sound money from both individuals, corporations, and countries goes up long term. And therefore, because there's only 21 million of them, it affects price. If you want to do a bit more analytical work, on the online wealth management program, we brought in Saifedean Moose, who went through the stock to flow ratio model, and there's alternative models as well. So you can check out some of those Bitcoin pricing models that is used based upon the supply and demand is the main models that are used. But no, I don't set those types of price goals because I'm a Bitcoin thinker, not a fiat thinker. And so I think of everything in terms of Bitcoin and making sure that each month I have more Bitcoin than I had the previous month. I've got my retirement plan and asset protection structure in order to diversify a bit wider as well, and take advantage of some of the other opportunities.
How does institutional investment purchasing Bitcoin OTC skew the price? If it never figures in the price we plebs look at, then surely this is not conducive to investing over a long period.
Yeah, so the question is, the exchange price is where people go to an exchange, like many of the companies that were funded on Banktothefuture, like Kraken or BitFinex or Coinbase. And the exchange price is where you put up that you say, I'd like to buy some Bitcoin, and it affects the price. And then CoinMarketCap is where you see the aggregate of all the different prices across all the different exchanges. The vast majority of institutional investment happens off exchange. It's called over the counter, OTC. So when I buy Bitcoin, when we buy it for a group in our retirement plan, so each month everyone contributes to their retirement plans, and because we pull together everyone's money, we then do one over the counter trade to purchase the crypto, the Bitcoin for those retirement plans and benefiting from a better rate. But yeah, the vast majority of it happens off exchange, and therefore it doesn't change the short-term price, but it does change the demand from somebody that would be trading on an exchange to somebody that would be trading off exchange. And when it changes hand to somebody trading off exchange, they're more likely to be a longer-term investor and not actually put that back onto the exchange. So eventually it falls through, but if you're trading short term, you're gambling, you're playing some of these trends. But yeah, the vast majority happens off exchange and therefore doesn't impact price in the short term, only in the long term.
Okay, question from Rishi.
Yeah, I reckon this is the last one.
I don't think this is the politician, UK politician, Rishi Sunak, but good name. Could a world government say the distribution of Bitcoin is weighted towards early speculators and restart the chain and split it up equally?
Could a government split up Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is money you can own, money you can spend, and money that has a fixed supply. And if a government wants to buy a load of Bitcoin and then redistribute it, then just like you could do that, a government could do that as well. But not quite sure of why they would do that, if they would do that. But anyone can participate. And so, yeah, any individual can buy it, any company can buy it, and any government or country can buy it if they choose. Let's do one more question that's a bit less political.
I think this one's a good one. When is the next BF investment opportunity?
So we've got Celsius hopefully going live this week. If it gets over the finish line, we've got FV Bank next. In terms of Banktothefuture itself, we are not planning on opening up equity in Banktothefuture at this stage. We don't have any plans for that. So you would have to have been an investor in the past, but verify, certify your account, and you can also become a premium member and get 48 hours priority access to deals as well. So we will let you know. Make sure you're on the newsletter when you sign up to that account. Check in the settings section that you're subscribed to the newsletter so we can make sure that we update you. And I think that's going to do it all. Any other? Yep. Okay. So we did 15 minutes extra. I hope you enjoyed this format where we're going to be doing an AMA. Remember, I'll continue to go live on more of the political stuff, updating you on the latest things that are happening. But we're also going to be kicking off BF Live again. This was episode 97. We should be going live next week with episode 98. And we'll be updating you on all things Banktothefuture as we progress and we get ready to relaunch more deals on the secondary market, apply for those additional licenses. And we're really excited. And thanks to all the new team members that have joined Banktothefuture. And we'll be supporting both our investors in setting up more retirement plans, using Banktothefuture, try us on for size. And we also are shareholders in many of the industries, so you're welcome to use many of our portfolio companies as well. There is more than enough to go round in this pie as we transition to this world built upon digital hard sound money. Hope you enjoyed the 7 investing maxims. Hope you enjoyed and avoid the 3 amateur mistakes. And we'll see you at this time next week on episode 98 of Bank to the Future Live. Always remember, you're alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. Some are going to get hurt, others do really well. I want to make sure that you're on the right side of this change. If you enjoyed this content and you'd like more questions, then subscribe to this channel, hit the bell symbol, hit all. Also give us a like, give us a share. Bank to the Future YouTube channel is a lot more targeted, has a lot less subscribers than the Simon Dixon one, but we can really narrow in and get focused on the investing side. So I'll see you next week. Peace.